Good morning. Let's get into it. Okay. Alright, so let's see. What was I doing yesterday? So I managed to... yeah, it was a big struggle. Okay, you know what? Before we go into that too much, let's just make sure we get our time tracker going. I think it's going to be very interesting to see how much time we actually spend on this game in the end. So I like keeping track of that. Okay, so we got this rune thing. And it's working, and we got the rune tooltip, which can now move with it, right? So if we click on this play and just check what it was doing, I think we should see. Okay, so whatever. Yeah, so you click on it and it moves with. Alright, so we still have this issue where it'll go underneath the button. Yeah, I actually don't know how to. So if I understand. Okay, so if I understand correctly, there's the hierarchy, right, or the visual tree, or whatever they call it, and since the tooltip is a child of an element that is a sibling of another one, it'll not go in front of that element. So it'll never, right, if you see it, it drills down like 1-2 times in the hierarchy. So it'll never be on top of this thing. Okay, that's not necessarily a problem. We just need to have a clever way of then positioning it slightly differently then. Okay, so, oh gee, my code's not even open. Alright, so let's see what we can do with that in terms of getting it to align somewhat recently. Decently. Okay, so there's another problem, I think, where... Okay, so let's just think about the runes again. I think I'm going to limit it to 4 runes at any given time. So you kind of force the character to have to apply them. You can't just stack runes indefinitely, right? You kind of have to use them, I think. So I don't know if that's a good thing from a design perspective, or if it's just something I want to do now because it's annoying to try and place these. But yeah, that's kind of how I'm feeling about it. Well, we can think about it, right? So okay, what if... Okay, so if we need more than 4 runes, and we kind of settled on the size of a rune, right? Which is roughly that size. More than 4 would end up being... Well, we'd basically require a scroll view, right? Essentially. Okay, another thing we could do potentially is just have the tooltip pop up in the same position no matter which rune we click. So that way, even if you have to scroll through the runes and click like one at the bottom over here, you can click it and it'll still kind of give you the information in this general area. That's another thing we could attempt to do. And this is kind of an annoying one, I must say. So if we don't change the position, then we might as well also just give it a dedicated space on the screen somewhere. Yeah, so we have a lot of wasted space. Like, this is a difficult thing. Now I'm struggling with UI design. Never mind. So what kind of is annoying right now is, if you think about it, if we don't have any runes, then we just have this massive block here that's blank, right? And the same with this one for the furniture. So you might start off the game being like, okay, what the hell? There's so much empty space. Which is not necessarily a problem if you put a grid here and you make it look like it's actually something like a... but what I'm thinking is maybe we can just hijack a little bit of the space at the bottom here. Make that the info, more info type of thing for the rune. Right, because it doesn't have to be that much. And then we just put all the runes in a scroll wheel. Like a scroll view. Essentially. Right, so what I'm thinking is we do something like that. So we put a scroll view inside there. Okay, so then we have our available runes. And then inside the scroll wheel view, you know, somewhere, I don't remember where the hell. No, it's not there. Yeah, we put the rune element over there, for instance. And then our rune tooltip. Okay, so our rune tooltip will live over there. But I make the position relative again. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, you just make that 0, so it'll be kind of at the bottom now. Okay, let's just see if we make this auto. Like, okay, so the tooltip's not gonna be a tooltip anymore. Or it's gonna be like a stationary tooltip, I guess. Which is maybe not great, but it's something, right? So there's gonna be a stationary tooltip that doesn't disappear, so we'll just move it down to the bottom and then give ourselves some space up top. Right? Yeah, let's work with that. Okay, so then inside available runes, if we want to align, we might want to align like that. So it's always at the bottom, but now even if I go and I add more runes, Like if we just simulate this. So the runes will kind of do that. Ooh. Yeah, so you'll get a bit of a scroll bar going. Okay, so but we should just maybe fix the size of our rune tooltip. And okay. Okay, let's just unset that, and let's go to this, and let's unset that as well, so it's there again. Okay, so shrink. Let's not make it shrink, so these things can scroll just behind it. That's okay. Okay, we can also change the width. Well, no, 250 is actually not that bad, I think. The height, I don't think it needs to be that large. It can be like this. Okay, so now we have a bit of a scroll view. We have our runes. And we have the more info, right? And it's very ugly, but yeah, I think generally speaking, this is going to be okay. Make those borders a bit smaller. We should do it for this as well. Okay, now obviously we can do some things about this so it doesn't look so bad. So yeah, for our scroll view, we could give it a border as well. Okay, we could also just add some padding or something there. Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna go with this. So we have, I mean, this is fine, right? This is more than enough space to display all the information. And this is more than enough space to, and with a scroll view, you can just scroll through the runes. And now we can have as many runes as we like. Okay. Okay. So let's see our rune tooltip. Just want to check the text here, because the text looks terrible. Okay. I can never find... Where's the text? Size text. Okay. So the first thing is we need it to be that color. Okay, like 24, bold maybe. Yeah, something like that. We can even give it a little bit of a left pad. Yeah. I think something like that. The top pad is actually not a problem, it seems like. Yeah, so something like that should be pretty good in terms of additional information, and we have a bunch of... I mean, that's... Okay, so the title's a bit small. We can maybe make that larger, so that would be the name of the rune, or something like that. Or it could just be a fixed text, actually. But okay, but tooltips in general will be modifiable, right? So we don't want it to be a fixed text necessarily. Yeah. Okay, so let's just check something. So we have two labels inside of our tooltip. And what we can do... Okay, so let's drink some coffee. Okay, so all tooltips will kind of have a title of some kind, and then just some information, right? So how do we want to kind of format this? Okay, so the title is fine, right? And if we look at how we create a tooltip, we just have a new label, a title, and then we add a tooltip. Now, what we can do also is something like we can take the tooltip and just add a. So we can do a public void add title class, right? Something like that, and we can take in a string. String. This would be yeah, you can't use class. Let's just say style. Okay. This is not just a style, it's a style. What do we call this again? Selector. Yeah, so just a style selector. Yeah. And basically all this does is it's going to take the tool tip title dot add to class list style selector, right? So just something like that. And we can also do the same thing for our add what is this content class, and we just take our tooltip content and we do that, right? So if we create something, we can edit it like this. Okay, and then what else could we do here? So we add the title and the content class. Okay, so that we can do once, and then we can do something like public void set title, right? And we want a string title or heading, I guess, but yeah, anyway. So tooltip title dot text it's just equal to title, right? So something like that, and then we need something similar for set content. So that's just what we want to display in our. Okay, so we can just do that. We give it a string, so all of these should work. And effectively what that means is wherever we create them, so in the, we don't really create them over here, but we can change the info over here. Okay. Now what this also means with this constructor, okay, so I should think about how I want to do this, because I can't just, okay. I need to add this dynamic or in code, because I don't want the constructor. The tooltip should be something that we can reuse, right? So in this case, we are using the Rune tooltip on this. And we were able to just drag it on there. Oh, you know what we can do? Yeah, actually, I don't know. There is a way to do this. If you want to access these labels and edit them specifically, Yeah, I don't know what child at any depth. Hey, this guy. How's it going? How are you? Parent class name, child class name. Do you have to chain them together like that? So in other words, if I do rune tool tip dot, let's say, unity label, now add that. Okay, it's annoying. No, man, don't do that. So if I click on that thing and I change something like the text size, yeah, that doesn't do anything. So even though, yeah, like the child, I mean, the title, this label does have a class. Hey, got back from some shopping. Hey, like, nice. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to stream very long today either. I have a kid party to go to. So that's interesting that it doesn't, we can't access the label like that. The Unity label. This doesn't work. So it's that due tomorrow. Yeah. And for some reason, you know, kid parties need to be at 9 a.m. So pretty much have to end the stream a little bit early so that I can go get ready and we can get everybody in the car and we can drive all the way there. At least it's at a steak ranch at Spur. I don't know if you know what Spur is. I don't know if Spur is a thing in New Zealand. But I get to have a steak for breakfast. That's all I'm saying. That's or a burger or whatever I want. Okay. Okay, so we can set it in code, that's fine. It would be kind of nice if I could edit this while we are looking at it, but I guess I can't. I mean, I can change it to be something else here in the constructor, but then all that will do, like, then all the tooltips would have to have the same naming, correct? Like if I do an add to class list in the game tooltip constructor, that would mean that it's kind of like the rune, where I would need a, let's say, a tooltip style, but then if I put any other tooltips in this window for some other thing that I want more info on, it'll just grab that immediately. Then all the tooltips would have the same style. You know what? Maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe tooltips should all have the same style so that they are consistent throughout the game. You know what? Now that I think about it, that actually does seem better. Okay, you know what? Let's just do that. Okay, so first of all, we want a add to class list. So we can make a game tooltip class, a general one, And then we want the title. Yeah, okay, so we still need to separate the title somewhat from the content. Man, I don't know how I want to do this. Like, okay, I can do that, and now it will have a general class, right? Or a general selector. Okay, and I can make them all look similar, which is, generally speaking, not a bad idea. Okay, so we can do that, but then the title and the text, we want those to be separate as well to some degree. I wonder if we do tooltip title dot style dot text font size. If we did something like that, and then tooltip content dot style dot font size equals, I don't know. Well, let's make this one 18 and then this one like 24. So if I did that, just want to see if they actually get these. Okay, so then it should recompile and change the sizing here. Right? Yes, it did. So change that. Now if I look at this tooltip, it's got a game tooltip and a rune tooltip on top of that. Okay, so the rune tooltip, if I go and I do something funny with the text like size, it doesn't change it, right? Because it's set in stone. Okay, that's not bad. I can work with that, but if I change the color, it does change. Okay. So anything, okay. So when the constructor sets the size, it sets the size. Like, I still have the ability to change other things, but the size, that's kind of it. And I can even change the font now if I really wanted to something that's not readable. Okay, that's not bad. I can work with that. So then I don't need a game tooltip. I can still apply whatever I need to apply. And then I'll just change the... Yeah, so I'm not going to do this. But I will change the font sizing. Okay, so let's make this like a 36. And let's make this like a 24. And let's just see if that looks like anything. That's not bad, right? I think I'm just going to leave it like that. Now, there's a lot of... There's a lot of lines there, but I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think, yeah, 7 is more than enough for any information I might want to show. Okay, and I think what else we should do here is just do tool... just change the name to be... to be tooltip title, just so that I can easily get to it if I need. Name, and that is just going to be tooltip content. Okay, so there we go. Now we have the content and everything. We could access it like that if we need it, or we could access it like this. With set title and set content. I kind of like just doing set title, set content. Okay, but still they have a name, so we can work around it. Okay, cool stuff. Cool stuff. Okay, we're getting there. Okay, so now they should just show up with... Yeah. Okay, great stuff. Now they have a name which I can access if I need to for some funny reason. Okay, fantastic. Okay. So let's say... Okay, let's go to our rune element. Okay, so now what it does... Okay, so it can get the game tooltip when you click on it. Okay, so let's see if we can get our callback thing to work here. Okay, so essentially what we need is... let's see... Okay, so this is not going to work for us. Okay. So when click, it needs to go to the tooltip and give the tooltip its info, essentially, right? Which could come from the rune item SO. Okay. So actually, when we set rune info, we get a rune item SO, and I think we should keep that around. So we can do a private rune item SO, and we can just call it the rune item SO. Okay, so that doesn't work, so let's just say set rune info. Alright, so we can set it like that, and now when you click it, what we can do is we can get a game tooltip dot set title, for instance, and we pass in a string. Okay. So the string we might want to pass, in this case, we could just pass in the rune title, to be honest. Or you know what? We're gonna do the rune item SO dot rune item name. Okay, and then we can do dot set content. Okay, now this one is a little bit more difficult, right? So we need to go think about actually what the content of the rune is, because I'm not too sure. It'll come from the rune item SO in some way, but we might have to format a string first so that it actually makes sense. Okay, so let's go look at our rune item SO. Right, so... Okay, So this is kind of a this is kind of a thing, right? Wow. Okay, so I think the way I did this was I have a list of stats SO, which basically what that does for me is it gives me the ability to add the stat scriptable object to the rune that I want the rune to actually affect. Right, so if we go look, I think I've created a couple of runes already. If we go to our scriptable objects, our actual scriptable objects, items, yeah, so I have this power rune, yeah, so I added damage and critical chance. And then I basically changed the values in here for the ones, for these that it affects, right? So we can check which ones it affects and then check the damage or the amount by which they are affected. Okay. We also need a sprite. Yeah, we don't have many. Oh, we have so much UI to do. So much UI work to do. Damn. Okay, let's just say it's that target for now. I mean, it's not great, but whatever. Okay, so that's effectively what I want to show. So the title is just going to be Rune of Power. And it's going to have 2 lines. Damage plus 50. Critical chance minus 50. Yeah, so we just need to figure out a way to format that string. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so in the rune, the rune element, so we could think about this. So when we set the rune info, we might be able to set the rune's effect text. Right, so we could totally do private rune string rune effect text. Right, something like that, or let's just make it rune stats text. So the stats of the rune is a text, right? So okay, and then when we set the rune info, what we can do a for each loop, right? And we can do for each, okay, let's think about this. Stat SO, stat in rune item SO dot, what did I call this even? Rune stats. Right, so we got our list of stats. Okay, and we want to change the rune stats text, right? Okay, so let's think about this. So the stat will have a name. Right, so we can do... Okay, so when we construct a rune and we set the rune info, we have to do something like rune stat text plus equal string dot format, right? So let's just get all our boilerplate here. No, man. Okay. String dot format. Okay. So what we have here. So let's think about this. I think we do this so many times with our UI in general. So I think if we go look at something like our more character stats UI. Yeah, I should really be able to do this with a helper function somewhere. Okay, let's just go look at our UI. So more character stats. So yeah, so this text and label stuff, I do this so many times. Okay, but I kind of want the same thing, hey? Okay, I'll just put it there for now. Okay, so we want our text, and what we wanted to do is to format the string or the stat name and then do some other things, right? So my one issue with this is oh, you know what? I've done this before. Rune UI. Yeah. Minus and then all this stuff. Well, I can add such a dash. So we did. You know what? Let's do this. Yeah, I remember now. Because when I created the UI before, I needed to do this. So now I'm essentially doing the same thing, right? Okay, so we do string.format. That's a dash. Okay, and then we do 0, which is the stat name. 1, which is add sign. Okay. Okay. And that was something I did inside of the UI. I did an add sign to check whether or not the yes. Yeah, we can just do the same thing. We did an add sign. I remember this problem. Then we just get the stat. So let's actually just take this exact string format here. Because this is pretty much what I want, right? Each line needs to do that. Okay, and if I make this stat SO, all of this should work already. Fantastic. Okay, so if we run through this, so that's our format. Okay, then we do that stuff. Okay, I'm just gonna put some. Okay, so let's see. So we have the 4 elements here. So that's the stat name. So number 1 is our 0 is a stat name, right? So we just take the stat name, we make it a string, we format it a little bit with the underscores and stuff. Then we add a sign, right? So potentially the problem here is if it's a positive number, so damage plus 50 in this case, all that it'll do, it'll just leave a blank space, right? If it's negative, it actually does put a minus sign by default, right? So if you're losing stats, it's not a problem. It shows that. But if you gain stats, it just says damage 50. It doesn't put a plus there. So this add sign function just puts a plus there. And the negative is already taken care of by default. Okay, and then we can do rune item SO, get the actual stat name. Oh no, get the number, get item stat. Okay. And then we just get the units from the stat SO. Okay, that's pretty much it, right? So the rune stat text is now going to be populated by that. Okay, perfect. So we're going to go through all the stats in our rune stats and populate the rune stat text. Perfect. So when we click on the game tooltip, we want to set content. We're just going to plug in the rune stat text. Right, which we set when we set the rune info. Perfect. Okay, so I think this is mostly what I want from the UI. So our rune element, well, as a class, so it's nice and format. It looks terrible, but it's there. So when you click a rune, we add a title and an icon. So that's at least something we have. We can go and fiddle with the actual class now to make it look a bit better. Yeah. Okay, and when you click on a rune, it'll do this. Right, we might want to do more pointer events like a hover event and stuff like that, because that just feels good. But for now, this is pretty good. It's okay. Yeah, so let's save it now. Okay, set rune info is not gonna do much. Because I don't think we have available runes, so we're not gonna be calling that function anytime soon. Okay, so let's actually go check. So our available runes would be stored in the player. Okay, so let's just check the player, right? So, okay, so I have 3 power runes inside of available runes. Okay, so when we open up the level prep UI, we need to do something with those runes, right? So let's go to our level prep UI. Hello? Oh, there we go. Okay. So currently when we enable it, we've been just chucking runes in there. And that is obviously not what we want to do, right? We kind of want to... Okay, we do want to create a few things from here, but not like this. So let's think about this. We could do on show. So whenever you show this UI, okay, we just do some things with the characters, etc. Okay, but we can also do on show. We can have a function here that just says private void show or show runes or update rune list, or let's just say update available runes, right? And this is obviously something we do. So somewhere, whenever we show this, we need to update available runes, just so we can make sure all the runes are there. Okay, so let's just get it out of the on enable. Okay, and let's get it into this function, right? So we can understand. Okay, so the rune container will be equal to root.visualElement. Okay, so this is fine if we put it up where it was. Right, that's just setting the rune container. Okay, we don't need this test rune anymore, so I'm just going to get rid of that. And we don't need the rune item SO. Okay. So what do we need? Okay. Well, we need to create them, right? So what we should do is we should get a list of runes, or we should do a for each, and we can do a rune item so in player manager dot instance dot is it a no wait our rune manager is an instance, right? So we could just straight go to our rune manager instance and check our runes list. Yeah, in rune manager dot instance dot runes. Right, so we go through all our runes and we need to do something with each of them. Okay, so we need to create a new rune element. So this is something we need to do. But we also need to have it set the rune info, right? Okay, so we create a new rune, and then we can do rune dot set rune info, and we just plug in the rune item so, and then we can add it to the rune container. Okay, if our rune container is in fact the correct thing, which I'm not too sure about anymore. Okay, so let's just see. So our rune container is available runes, but technically it's not anymore. I want this thing to be our rune scroll container. Okay, so let's change it to that. So when we get our container, our rune container, we're actually just going to look for the rune scroll container. Okay, and that should be better. Okay, so now our rune container is the scroll view, and we will add a rune to the scroll view using the rune item so. Okay, and the rune element itself should, if we set rune info, figure out what it needs to do. It should change all the text, etc., etc. And then every time we click on a rune, it'll get the game tooltip. Just look for the rune tooltip wherever it is. It'll set the title and the content to whatever info has been given to the rune. Okay, the game tooltip itself doesn't have any problems. We're just calling these two functions, which should change the text to whatever I give it. Okay. Okay, so and it should then this text should go away, right? It's not going to add text, it changes the text outright. Okay. I believe I'm somewhat there. Okay, so obviously it still looks kind of ugly, but that's another problem. Okay, let's just save a couple of things and let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. Oh, okay. My bad. Okay, so half the problem is I still had a bunch of runes in here already, but it did add 3 more runes, right? If I click on any one of these, it gives me a null reference exception error. Why? Is it not getting the game tooltip? Oh, I see. Maybe it's not getting the game tooltip. Yeah, because I'm looking in the parent. Okay, so what if we just get the root element? Yeah, we're just looking in the parent, looking for the game tooltip. We kind of want to look in the root. So who will have access to the root? So that's kind of part of the issue here right now. So if you think about it, the level prep UI knows about the root. So it'll go through the runes, create the runes, but the runes themselves, where they live, they don't actually know where the tooltip is going to be. Even if they know the name of the tooltip, they can't find it this way. Yeah, and normally you get the root by having access to the actual document. So I guess, yeah, we need to give a reference to this thing from outside, right? So maybe when we set the rune info, perhaps we also tell it, yeah, we give it a visual element. Should we give it the game tooltip? Right. So let's do something like that. And let's change the game tooltip name to a... This is going to be the rune tooltip, right? So we're using game tooltip, but this is actually the rune tooltip. So we get the game tooltip, right, from our set rune info. And then we do rune tooltip equals game tooltip, right? So just something like that. Oh wait, this is not a visual element. This should be a game tooltip. Okay. So we get the game tooltip and we give it to it, right? When we set info. Okay, that would mean that in level prep UI, when we do this, we also need to do okay, so where can we get the game tooltip, right? So it shouldn't be that bad, or the rune tooltip. What do we have here? We have the main container. We don't have the root, so we can use the main container. Yeah, I mean, we can do that. Main container.q query. We want a game tooltip type. And the name of this thing is, in fact, rune tooltip. Okay, so we just give it that. And it should be now able to access the tooltip that it needs, right? So the rune element needs access to a tooltip. So it will get it now. So we don't need that. You know what? I don't need this either. Okay. Save that. And let's go back to our UI. Oh, wait. Okay, we need to stop the game because it's kind of broken. Okay. So in UI Builder, I also just want to get rid of these rune elements. Alright, like that. Okay, so now it's nice and clean. Well, okay, it doesn't like that I'm undoing things. So we can go and just add a rune element in here again. I guess. Just one. I just want one that I can see what it looks like, because I have to make this look better at some point, right? Okay, and we'll add 3 more with the code. So let's see what this looks like. There we go. Yeah, we click on that one. It won't work because it didn't run the correct code. We click on that one. There we go. We got some info. Okay, they're all the same, which is unfortunate. But okay, so it gives us the info, and obviously the text is way too big. Okay, we should be able to change that. I mean, this looks like it's fine, but anyway, it's not fine. Okay, wait. We can't change it there. Yeah, this doesn't affect it, right? And if I look at the game view, I stopped it. Yeah, it is kind of a lot of info, right? Let's make this 1080p. Yeah, I mean, that's not small text. That's actually quite big. So we can easily make it smaller. Yeah. So tooltip, we don't have to be this ridiculous. We can make it like 18 and 16. Also, let's make a couple more runes. So we have a rune of power. We can create a new scriptable object here. Rune item. So this could be speed rune. Right, so the speed rune, what does it do? Rune of haste. Rune color. Okay. I forgot that I gave them colors. Okay, it's green. What does it do? It gives you 2 movement speed, 100% attack speed, but it reduces your armor by 10. And what else does it do? Reduces your max health by 50. I don't know. Okay. Let's just say that's what it does. So it's got 4 effectors, right? So that's quite a lot. So we just need to get 1, 2, 3, 4. So we do attack speed, movement speed. Where's the movement speed? There. Then we do armor and health, max health. And there we go. Okay, there we go. Now I got a second rune. So inside of our player manager, let's just add a rune of speed. Okay, let's get rid of. So we have okay, we have a power rune and a speed rune. Okay. So let's give it a go. See what it looks like. Okay, that's pretty good, right? Everything fits. Now we can also change the size, I think, of the maybe the name. can also change the color of the text if it's negative, maybe? That'd be kind of cool. I don't know how to do that, though. But that would be kind of cool if we did that. I think I might have to figure out a way how to do that. Okay, but the tooltip fundamentally works. What doesn't work is the actual rune itself. That looks absolutely atrocious, right? Okay, so let's stop it there. It seems like the icon also broke. I don't know why. So if we look at our rune element, it does set the sprite. I should have checked in the debugger. Okay. Okay, so this rune element. Okay, so it's got a label and an image, which is just the name and some icon, right? So let's just go to our rune title or text equals rune of power. Okay, just want to see what this looks like. And the icon, it would be kind of nice if we could see what the icon is, but I don't. Yeah, okay. I think the icon is just going to kind of work itself out. It's the text that's way too big right now, so let's just see what it looks like. The names are a bit long as well. Nah, it's fine. Okay, so that's rune of nothing, right? Okay, so let's see. Inner rune. Okay, that's quite large. Yeah, you see, I kind of have a problem, right? Okay, so even if I wrap it, it doesn't want to wrap. Okay, and I guess that's because the label is... No, the label is not growing. So why does the text not wrap? Okay, it needs to be bold. And it needs to be... I mean, white. Apparently, everything's white. Yeah, why is this? So it says it's wrapping, but it's clearly not. Maybe I don't want a title, to be honest. Maybe I would just want these to be nice icons. Yeah, kind of like what I do with the characters, right? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, so let's give it a play. Right, okay, over here I have their names and everything, but over here, like, I just have their icons. And, yeah, okay, so this works now. Yeah, and if you click on them, you can see the info. So this and the tooltip over here are kind of the same thing now, hey? In many ways. In many ways, they are now exactly the same thing. I could have designed this to be the same, like this, and maybe I would. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll go back to this and then change it to work like that instead. Okay, but anyway, so we have our separate runes. You can't see the names, but you can see it over there, right? Kind of like the characters. So maybe I'm gonna do it like that. So we won't put a name on the rune itself because it's kind of eh. We'll put all the info you need over at the bottom there. Okay. Okay, I think this is mostly okay, except for the naming here. But there's no way you can make it big enough so that you can read, because the names are quite long. So we just do a nice icon, I think. Okay, so let's see why the icons are not. Damn it! I should have. Okay, but anyway, so let's go back to our constructor, and we actually tell our constructor, look, it's fine. You can get rid of the title. Okay, so this label is no longer required, right? We don't use the rune title anywhere else, I don't think. Yeah, we set a text over there, but it's not really helpful because yeah, we give it the name straight like that anyway when we click on the rune. Okay. So yes, I wish I had known how to do this when I was creating my more character stats UI. Because looking at the way this is now built, I actually think it's much better. Unfortunately. Because damn. Yeah, this is effectively what I needed for the character stats. Just better. Okay, but I'm not gonna go back and change everything because it's a waste of time. Okay, so let's think about this. We don't have that anymore, but we still set an icon. And then over here we take the icon and we set the sprite to the rune icon, which comes from our item SO. Right, so let's just go look at our item SOs. Maybe I accidentally removed the sprites. Oh, I did. Okay. It's exactly what I did, apparently. Okay, so let's say, I don't know, it's like we don't have proper icons here, but let's make this one a target, and let's make this one a flip button, some kind of an arrow. There we go. A nice big arrow. Okay. So now when we play the game, the runes should be mostly, well, just an icon of some sort. Yeah. So this is haste power. Yeah, there we go. So now we just need to get a way of applying it to a character. Okay, and I think I want to do this little thing as well, where if you click on them, they kind of pop up a bit. That seems good. So this rune is actually very straightforward now in terms of UI. Like, the constructor does not do much. It's literally just making an element with an image. That's so little work that it does. But anyway, whatever. Okay, so let's take the rune and let's make it look a little bit nicer. So one of the things I think I want to do is just give it some padding, I think. Okay, so let's just look at that. So now that the rune icon itself will be a little bit smaller. I wonder if I give it margin. Okay, so if I understand this correctly, margin will make the actual thing bigger. Okay, it makes the whole thing bigger. Okay. So what I should actually do maybe is have an image on top of a background. Okay, so the image is going to sit in the middle there. And what I can do is I can make the image enlarge itself when it's clicked. Okay, let's see if we can make this kind of look a bit better. Okay, so we can leave the padding. Okay, let's get rid of the incredibly thick border. Yeah, so there's a lot of design stuff I think I can do. So we can put an image on top of the background. Can I... What happens if I scale this? I don't actually understand how scaling works. Okay, so the rune element does get larger. Interesting, but it doesn't actually move it. Like, yeah, doing a transform doesn't actually do anything. I suppose, so something is keeping it there, right? It must be the container itself. The thing it's inside of, right? If I move this, yeah, look, it moves, but it doesn't move. Interesting. If I make it an absolute position... Okay, that breaks a lot of stuff. Apparently. Huh. Interesting. Yeah, no, so I should be fiddling with the image background instead, I would say, if I wanted to do something with the background. So this could really just be like a nice looking frame of some kind. It could even not have a... Well, we could even put a texture as a background, right? Wow. That looks pretty bad. Let's see. You know, why do I have so many? Okay, let's just make a circle. Okay, these are crosshairs technically, but... Okay, interestingly, wow. I have a ton of crosshairs. Okay, so if you put a texture there, we can give it a tint. Okay, let's see what that looks like, right? I don't know what repeating the texture does. I don't, a lot of this stuff I don't understand. Yeah, we can do something like that. This tooltip looks ugly as well, especially with the color. We can change the color, I guess, the border color, to be the color of the rune. That'd be kind of nice. What did I just do? Ooh, this is not what I want. This is gonna look terrible. Alright, whatever. We'll figure it out. Assertion failed. I don't know why. Okay, but I am editing the right thing, am I not? Ah, damn, I'm not. Ugh. Okay, unset. I have no idea what the problem is. Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna do this. I'm just gonna get rid of this rune. Go away. You obviously are broken. Okay, and we can take these things and we can just unset the color, get rid of that stuff. Okay, so now the rune is pretty straightforward. We can unset this. Okay, we have a bit of padding, which is fine. I need that. Okay, and then in our rune tooltip, yeah, okay, this is okay. Just make this radius a little bit aggressive, it'll look a bit better, and maybe make the border a bit better as well. And then okay, and then the other thing I want to do is go here and change in the tooltip. I want to change this to like 22 maybe. Might be too much, right? Okay, we'll just make it a little bit bigger. Okay, so that's just the tooltip. And actually what I also want to do, okay, so let's see. In my rune element, when I click on it, I set the title, set the content. I kind of want to set the color as well. So public void set border color. Right, and what we need is a color. Right, something like that. And what I want to do here is I want to do border color. I don't know what I'm changing here. Oopsie. Alright, so let's think about this. So in the game tooltip, you would normally have a... We could do a border. Huh. Actually, I don't know. So if you do visual elements dot something with style. Oh yeah, okay. We need to go style dot border color. Okay, so we need to do it over here. So style dot border color left. That's annoying. Okay, but that's why I put it in a function instead. So border right, border top, I assume, and bottom. Yep, so we can just do set border color. Okay, so our rune element, when you click on it, we also do rune tooltip dot set border color to not that, but actually rune item so dot rune color. Okay, so something like that should make it look a little bit nicer. Okay, and then also what I want to do when I click on it is I actually want to do style.scale. I think that's what I do with my... So level prep UI, if I go to my... Okay, so I have all my characters that I click on. Scale, yeah. So I do, I scale it up. Yeah, so you do a new vector to like 1.2 by 1.2. Okay, now something like that. Now the only problem is okay, so this is not going to be the rune click necessarily. Yeah, so the problem doing it inside the rune itself is going to be that like I can scale the rune from inside of here, right? If I click on it. The only problem is if I click on anything else. Yeah, this is kind of complicated. So you kind of want to do rune clicked, scale yourself, but then if any other rune is clicked, it kind of needs to go and tell all the other runes to unclick themselves. Easier way to do this might just be with a hover type of thing. Okay, this is also scaling not the thing I wanted to scale actually. So I want the rune icon to scale. Right. Yeah, so actually, what other events do we have here? So if we do register, so mouse pointer, it's a pointer capture event. Event sent when a pointer is captured by a visual element. Maybe not. Maybe it's a pointer enter event. Right? This event is sent when a pointer enters a visual element or one of its descendants. The event does not trickle down and does not bubble up. Okay. So we could do that one. Actually, let's see what that does. Right. So you know what, actually, what I'm going to do. So I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do a new one that is a pointer enter event here. Rune, say hover. All right. and we're just going to call over here. We're going to do rune hover. Okay. Just want to see how this works. Okay, but I have an idea, but I don't think it unhovers itself. We need a pointer exit event as well, right? Pointer enter event. Leave event. So leave event, out event. The event trickles down and bubbles up. That's very interesting. Yeah. Okay, let's just see what the hovering does. So it should override things, right? But the rune icons are not going to be overwritten, so they're just going to kind of all be big now. And I need to have a way of telling it to relax. It's going to be, I'm hovering. But then I'm not hovering anymore, but it's not going to know that. Okay, so let's see. So when I hover over this. Okay, yeah. So that's nice. I like the fact that they change, right? As you go over it. It'd be kind of nice if these do it as well. But yeah, now you can see the two stay very much selected, right? Yeah, so we kind of need to think about a way of getting the information across that we are not inside this one again, or we click something else. Now, the way I did these was all of this is handled inside of level prep. I didn't use constructors or anything fancy to work with those, which would have been nice, I think. But yeah, I kind of just... The thing is, we always have 4 characters, so it's much easier to just put the 4 characters in here and it works. The runes, however, I kind of need to create them on the fly, so it makes more sense that they are not always there. Yeah. Okay, I'll come back to this in a minute. I want to go get some more coffee and use the restroom, so I'll be right back. And let me just give you guys something to look at. I'll see you in 2 minutes. I'm back. Okay, let's keep going. Now, okay, wait. For some reason I'm paranoid. Okay, I am not muted. Okay, so let's think about this. So we got the rune hovering thing. So we can think about this, right? We obviously want a click event to occur, and the hover event is not bad, right? If you're just hovering over runes, it's kind of nice. I kind of think I should do that for the characters potentially as well. But anyway, so you hover over a rune, but you haven't selected a rune. Okay, so we need to be able to select runes. We also should be able to potentially deselect a rune. Right, so if we think about this, okay, so let's think about this is going to be an interesting one. So select and unselecting runes. So let's think about this. So the one way we could do this is when you click it, we could have an event that the level prep UI just listens to, right? So we can easily just, you know, when we create our rune somewhere here, update available runes. When we run this function every time we show our UI, we could very easily just register the rune event inside of our level prep UI, and we can kind of manage everything from here in some way, right? So if we have that rune event, we can say, okay, when that event fires, we need to go through all our runes and actually just kind of get rid of the is that a good idea? Well, we have the runes inside here, so we can go through them. Yeah, we could check the container, get all the runes or something like that, and then just kind of unselect all of the other runes, for instance. Yeah, we'll have to loop through them somehow, and the level prep UI will have an idea of which runes are available, right? Theoretically. It should also have an idea. Okay, so then, okay, let's think about this a little bit more broadly. So if we think about this, we can take the rune element and we can just kind of get rid of this line at the moment. Right, getting rid of this line means that our rune hover thing just works, right? That's not a problem. Now, when we click the rune, we want some kind of a visual feedback of some sort telling us, look, the rune was clicked, and we specifically clicked this rune, right? So we can do a couple of things. We can have in the clicked rune, we can set the icon to make it a little bit bigger, right? Or we can change the color. We can do all kinds of things, right? Highlight it in some way. Okay. So then it becomes the selected rune. And then at some point, if you click on a character, I want that rune to apply itself to the character in some way. Right, so this is now where it gets a bit funny. So you click, and you need to remember what was clicked, which rune is selected. Now, I personally think it wouldn't make sense to do that inside of the rune. It would be much better to do that inside of the level prep UI, because that way we can keep track of it in a bit of a better way. So here we have the selected character and we have the next level character, but we could very simply have a reference to our rune that was clicked, right? So We can either have an ID for the rune, which might be better because we might have multiple. Right, so the rune ID, if we look at our element, is a int. And that'll actually be different depending on the rune. So we might have... I'm just thinking about this. We might have multiple instances of a rune. Let's see, how did I do my rune manager? We gave them an ID. We worked with the ID. How was the ID set though? Who decided the ID? Okay, so this is kind of a interesting one now because so when the rune is created, we have a rune list. We can add the rune to the list. I'm a little bit concerned about the way I'm managing my runes. I need to think about this. Okay, so it makes sense. Okay, so let's say we need to create okay, so let's just check. Okay, so first of all, we can have the player. It has a manager called runes. But there's an available rune list, which is actually the list I want to work with. The reason is, so this is just a list of runes so that I can see what type of runes exist. Right? And technically, so even though they have an item ID, that's not technically what this, that's not technically the important part. Because I could have, if I have 5 runes of power, I should have 5 instances of this rune, and they should have their own item IDs. Right? So this ID doesn't make a difference. Yeah, I need to think about this differently. So I should use the scriptable object to create an instance of this item and assign it an ID depending on whether or not, depending on how many we have, right? So it could be, all of them could have a separate ID, no matter what rune it is. So we should keep track of all the items somewhere. I mean, and the rune manager is obviously the ideal place for that, all right? So these are just like rune templates in a sense. If we want to create or add or whatever, do something with a rune. Okay, so that's fine. And we can use these templates for a lot of the information we need. But we also need to keep a list somewhere for having unique runes. Like... Okay. I think I see the issue here. So we should have a list of all the runes with their IDs. So there could be like 5 runes of power, but they have separate IDs, which is how they are unique. It's similar to the characters. Yeah, I had the same problem with the characters where I had to create a character type and a character number in the character data, right? Yeah, so in the character data, we don't just have, we have a character ID now. Which, I mean, it's a, yeah, that's kind of bad, but still, it's an enum. But that's just because we only have 4 potential characters. The rune ID would be an integer, and we can have multiple of those, right? So this is, we need to think about that. Okay. So we need to create an instance of the rune. And it could be a new scriptable object, but we need to create a new one. And then we need to keep it somewhere. So, what if we went to the rune manager and we told it to create instances of the runes, right? So this is the rune. This would become the rune SO. The rune SOs, right? And then we can also create a new class of type rune item. Right, and we can define a few things. So in the rune item, the very first things we need would be an int rune ID. And then we could do other things like, well, this could be a public int rune ID. And we could reference a public rune item SO, and we can just call this the rune item SO. Right, so if you think about it, what we then effectively would do is we'd take one of these SOs, we would create a new rune, and a new rune just has an ID and an item SO. And then essentially we can create a dictionary of runes where we use the item IDs to go and grab them if we need them. Okay, we can expand upon this. So this is becoming very similar to the type of stuff I was doing with some of my UI. Where, for instance, I created a character and then I created a list of characters, for instance. And then I can go through the list of characters if I needed. Okay, so we can either do a list of runes, looking for a specific number, rune number, for instance, if we needed to do that. Or we can use the rune ID as a dictionary type of scenario. I'm just thinking about that. So let's think about that. If I did that, and I want to get a specific rune, just query the dictionary with the ID, and I have that rune. Every time a new rune is created, we would add to our dictionary or list a new rune, and we will assign a new ID. And that could also mean that whenever we assign a rune to a character, we only need to pass in the rune ID. That's the only piece of information that needs to be going around anywhere. Okay, so let's try that. Let's try making a public dictionary. Key would be an int. Value. Well, now that I think about it, what if we just did that? Wouldn't that already be this? So int is just the ID, and we return an item SO. Okay. So then a rune item I don't know what the best way to architect this is. Ah, damn it, architecture is such an annoying thing. So technically we could just do dictionary with ints, and then we can just add to that dictionary. And what effectively is going to happen is we're going to end up with a bunch of integers as keys, and we can reference any one of the items, right? We kind of don't then need a rune ID, or we don't need a rune item, unless we need other information about the rune item. Right? So, okay. So, let's just save it there. And let's think about what we are doing with the character itself. So, on the character, we have an inventory. And what does that inventory have? How does it work? So, let's go and explore our character inventory a little bit, right? So, character inventory would get a list of runes, which is a scriptable object list. So that's how we did that. And then whenever we get the stat total for items, we just go through all the runes and figure it out that way. So that would mean that every time we created okay, so that would mean the way that the runes were equipped was we would basically take the scriptable object and add it. Yeah, so this list is just becoming a list of references, essentially. And we would always just go through all of the items in the list. Okay, so that works. So where does this break down? So let's think about that. Where does this break down? So if we want to do our rune elements will be distinct elements, right? And each of these rune elements would have some information associated with them, etc., etc. Now, what I'm trying to do now is in the UI, when I click on a rune, I need to know which rune I clicked on. And it shouldn't select all the runes of that type. It's only the rune I clicked on that should become active. And it should unselect everything else except for the one I clicked on. That's kind of the problem I have, right? I think. And if I selected a rune and I click on the character, only that rune should move to the character, not all the runes of that type. I think I need to start building the system and then see how it breaks. To be honest with you, because I'm getting lost in the architecture a little bit. So our rune manager maybe doesn't need any of this stuff. It just needs a list of scriptable objects. And this is not our available runes. This is just well, actually, oh jeez. Yeah, I might have done that just so that it is. Yeah, so add rune to character. We get a rune ID. So we go through the rune SOs and we assign that specific rune to that character. And then we remove it from our rune SO. So it actually moves from here to the character. Okay. So that's okay. So we do the for each and we look for a loop. We loop it. We don't need a dictionary. That's not a bad idea. Obviously, if we use a dictionary, then we can just straightforwardly access that rune specifically and do that instead. So that's why I kind of like the idea of a dictionary. Yeah, because this is not going to work because all the runes will have the same ID. Would it matter? Yeah, so it breaks, so it only gets the first one of that type. In that case, maybe it doesn't matter. Right, so if it only gets the first one of that type, and then it kind of falls away, that maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe they don't have to be distinct. Like, I don't want that to happen with characters, right? But for an item, it doesn't actually make a difference. Yeah, I'm going to stick with that idea. So for an item, it doesn't make a difference if we just get the first rune of that type. Okay, so that's okay. So we can use... we can get rid of this for a start, but it's going to break something, I know. So we can use our rune SOs as like just all the runes that we have, right? And then we don't need any of this nonsense. And the only thing is we need to figure out a way to append more scriptable objects to that list, which I don't think is a problem. We can get around that later. So I do believe we could just say .add a new scriptable object, and it'll literally just have multiples of that scriptable object. References, right? Hey, Rayman! Or it's Rayman. How are you doing? Okay, so something like that. I'm just going to keep it like that. And then we can go into our UI and try to figure out how to make the thing clickable. You're doing good. Ah, that's nice, man. It's nice. I'm happy. Okay, so the hovering works. We just need to figure out what happens when you click on it, right? So when you click on it, I think we want an event to fire. So I believe we can have an event fire. Right, so depending on which one, I mean, this is already an event. Could I? Do I need to create a new event? Or can I, in my level prep UI, register to the same event in some way? I have no idea. Let's see, rune dot. Okay, I could just do a register callback because it's an element. Okay, so I could just do a register callback as well. Huh. Interesting. Is that the way you'd go about this? Just register another callback. So there's 2 callbacks. Yeah, I don't know. Because I obviously have a event registered here. Rune clicked. I suppose I could do that again. I remember seeing somebody do something like this where you have that and then you can kind of pass the event through to something else to listen as well. But I don't know. Yeah, I have no idea how to do that. So we can just register another callback. And we can look for a pointer event, or we can just create a new event that fires, or something like that. Right. Okay, but this one would mean that okay, so if we did the same thing, pointer down event. I wonder actually, is there a clever way of doing this? So the rune element, this thing already has that going for it, right? So it'll click it, and then we'll do a couple of things. When you click on it. So what if we first fire an event telling the other thing to do a bunch of stuff? And then we come back to this thing and we scale it. Yeah, so what if we do something like this? So we do a public void deselect. I don't know if it's deselect or unselect, but anyway. So all we have to do is just change the scale back to 1, right, for now. We might do other things, but let's just put the scale back to 1, right, when deselect is called. And then something like in level prep UI, when any rune is clicked, we want to deselect any other rune. Right, so we have a private void deselect all runes. Right, and we have a pointer down event, EVT. Okay, so we do something like that, and we do, you know what? We should actually get another thing called a rune element. Actually, wait, maybe not. Yeah, no. So how do we get the rune elements then? The rune elements don't exist anywhere else. Yeah, so I need a list of the runes so I can get them again. Okay, so let's think about this. When we deselect all runes, we need to cycle through all the runes, call the deselect function. Okay, so this thing, we could theoretically have a list of runes available to us in the level prep UI. Is there another way to access them? Something like going into my main container or something like that and just getting all of them. Or for each child or something like that. I don't know if that's a good idea. So I'm just gonna go private list list of rune elements. Apparently that's not a thing. So rune element list, rune elements. So we can just do that. And then when we update the rune elements, we create a new rune element. And we go rune elements.add rune. Right, something like that. So we add the runes. And you know what I should do? When you update available runes, we go rune elements new list. Right, so every time we update the runes for some reason, we actually generate a new list. Just so it's clear and empty and it only gets the latest stuff. Okay, so right here we can then do an easy for each. Going through all our rune elements. And we can do rune element dot deselect. So we just deselect all our runes. And that should be fine. And since we have this callback here, so deselect, there's a good argument to make for not having the rune element then have this callback as well. So we could potentially just do a public void select. Right, and on selecting a rune we do this. Okay, and then we get rid of this function entirely. We get rid of this. So we're looking for rune clicked on the other side. We don't worry about it here. We only worry about the hover event. And then in our level prep UI, we can deselect all of them. And what we can actually do is call this whenever we select a rune instead. So we can call this select rune. Right, and we can actually have another thing that we pass here, which is a rune element, and we just give it the rune. Right, so whenever you click on a rune, that's going to happen. So then we have a rune. Come on, a rune element, rune. Okay. So then again, now we go through all the rune elements, we deselect them. And then finally we do rune dot select. Right, so this would make it a little bit clearer what's happening. So we deselect all of the runes first, and then we select the one we want. And we click on another rune, it'll deselect everything and then select the one we want. We could obviously do something fancy with if statements, but realistically, we're never going to have a million runes, so there's no real point. Okay, so I like this a little bit better. And that means our rune element doesn't actually listen to pointer clicks. It only listens to the pointer hover, which I kind of like. So let's see how this actually comes together, right? So we did a bunch of things now. So let's play and pray that it doesn't completely crash out on me now. It's entirely possible. Okay. Alright, so we don't have any runes for some reason. Why? Why no rune? What happened? Did I get rid of all my runes? Geez, I might have. So on the player we have a... Yeah, okay, I got rid of all the runes. Okay, so let's just do a speed, a power, and a speed. Okay. Whoopsie daisies. Okay, so we have 3 runes. We go over that one, over that one, over that one. So hovering over them, we do get a bit of a change there. If we click on one, it goes big. If we click on that one, it goes big. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so it's very similar to how this works. But we can actually hover over them. We don't have to click on them every time. We just hover them. And now the next part. Yeah, we can actually have a character selected and a rune selected, right? So that's fine because that is allowed. Okay. The next thing I want to do is to be able to actually apply that rune to my character. Okay, so we've got the UI looking. I mean, it's terrible, but it's functional. I'm doing the stuff I want to do in the UI, right? So I create a rune, I can click on them, I can hover over them, I can do all those things. But now we need to, inside of our level prep UI, when a rune has been selected, we actually need to know that that rune has been selected, right? So we run this rune.select function, which just change a visual thing about the rune. It doesn't really do much else. But we need to keep track of which rune was selected, which technically shouldn't be that bad. We could just have a something somewhere on the rune that we selected, right? And then if you have a rune selected and you click on a character, so this is now where it gets interesting. Okay, so let's see. Is this the character icon? Yeah, I'm going to change this to character icon clicked, because I didn't understand. But this is icon.register callback, so it is actually not the holder anymore, it's the icon itself. Okay, so here's what I want to do. When you have a selected rune and you click on a character, we need to do a couple of things here. No problem, man. This guy. Yeah, it's going fine. It's. I'm still amazed, like just how much more complicated this is than I thought. This is probably why web development isn't really a joke either, hey? Because that's kind of what you're doing. You're just building UI the whole time. And damn, it's a lot of work. Like I can wrap my head around it, but it takes a long time. Okay, so we're clicking on a character icon. Now, we need to check whether or not we have a rune selected. Because if we do, we don't actually want to do this stuff. We actually want to do rune selection stuff. So it would be sensible to check if we have a rune. So we can do something like a private. What would this be? A rune element, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, if we clicked on a rune element, obviously we can get other information from the rune element. So we can either track a rune element, which should be okay. Yeah, because we can get the, okay, so private rune element selected rune. Right, so when we select a rune, we want to do rune let's just do selected rune equals rune. Okay. So what I also want to try actually is to deselect a rune. So we run a select rune when we click on a rune, right? So we deselect all, we select the rune we have, and then we select rune. But I think there should be another case. We should do like an if rune is equal to selected rune. I actually want to do something differently. So if we click on a rune that we've already selected, I actually want to deselect that rune as well. So this maybe is when it's not equal to the selected rune, we do that, right? Else, we make the rune null and we don't run select, so it stays deselected. I think I like that. So if we've selected the rune already and we click on it again, it'll actually deselect it and set our selected rune to null. Right, I like that idea. Now, over at the character icon, we can do if selected rune is not equal to null, we need to do something. Else, we can do all this nonsense. So essentially, we first need to check if we haven't selected a rune, perhaps. If we have selected a rune, so if this returns something that's reasonable, then we need to do something with the character. So at this point, we'll just do like a debug. So let's just do debug.log, and we just say something like, you have a selected rune plus the selected rune, let's say. Okay, so it's not null, so we can have a selected rune. So we should figure out how we actually apply this. Right, but one of the other things we should do once we click on a character after we've selected a rune is we should make the selected rune null, and we should actually do selected rune dot destroy. Not quite. I wanna get rid of this rune element, right? So how do we get rid of the rune element? Remove. So can we just remove the selected rune like that? Where does it go then? So remove the selected rune and you know what? Rune elements dot remove selected rune as well. Okay, so we remove it from the hierarchy, and this one removes it from the list. So it's removed from hierarchy, removed from list, and selected rune is changed to null. So it'll disappear, but it's not actually going to apply to the character just yet. So this is the first step. So let's give it a go. And then we can figure out how to actually apply that rune to the character, which shouldn't be complete rocket science, I don't think. Right, so we can still hover over there. Yeah, so we can click, 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 if we want to unselect it, right? So, but now we select that one, and if I click on this character, okay, visual elements, not my okay. So maybe we do a .parent.remove. So it can't remove itself. What if we just do .remove? Huh. Okay. So if I do .parent .remove selected rune, that could work. Yeah, because it's currently not a child of itself, so it doesn't like doing that. Did I remember to get coffee when I took a break? I actually don't know. My cup is off. It's very cold. But it's been like at least... Oh, that's a conundrum. Okay, so if we click on that one now. Perfect. So it is actually just gone. Right, and if I go to Window UI Toolkit Debugger, I pick element. I pick this element. We can see. Wait, we're trying to have this one. This one. Inside it has a scroll view, and like seriously, pick element. I want that guy. Okay, let's see. So there we go. We have 1, 2 runes. Okay, and if I click on this one and I click there, we only have 1 rune left. Fantastic. Okay, we need to do a few other things, obviously, but at least this is working. And I think if we go into our other debugger, so if we take this thing and put it in debug mode, we should, not in the rune manager, in the level UI manager, specifically level prep UI, it should have a list here somewhere. It doesn't expose it, even in debug mode. Damn it. Okay, but regardless, I mean, it's working, right? We can see we only have 1 rune left, which is a Rune of Haste that we can select and click, and then it's gone as well. Yeah, now if we click on any characters, we can actually see the character stats. No problem. Maybe we should still have that happen, to be honest. When you click on the character after you've selected the rune, maybe we still select the character then. So we apply the rune and we select the character so we can see the stats. Yeah, so that's not a bad idea. So we can still select the character. Yeah. Which would basically mean this if statement needs to go away. Well, maybe that one can stay. And then we can do this one as well. Yeah. So if the selected rune is not equal to null, we can do this stuff because otherwise it's just going to break. And then we can also check if the character is selectable. So, okay. So that will only work if the character is inside of something. When is the character not selectable? Okay, we can't select the next level character, apparently. Oh, that's because... I think I might be able to get around that, but the idea there was it was kind of annoying when you kept selecting the character when you tried to put a new character into the selection menu. Okay, but I think this is going to be okay for now. What else do we need to try and do? Okay, so let's try actually have it work as well, right? So not just do this stuff, which is all nice and visual, but actually now apply this specific rune to my character. So let's see how that works. So first of all, okay, we have our rune manager, right? And in our rune manager, we have our rune SOs. Okay, so we want to do add rune to character. So we want to call this, and we want to give it a rune ID, which is a rune type in a sense in this case. Basically. Yeah, no, it is. Okay, so we can just add rune to character. Okay, actually, let's try that. So we're gonna do rune manager dot instance dot add rune to character, and we'll just go and do. Let's see, how are we gonna do this? We need the selected rune dot. Okay, so we got the selected rune. We need to get the info out of that rune. So that is now this thing. Technically, yeah, we have the rune item SO. So we have to get that, I guess. Public int get rune ID. Then we just return rune item so dot rune item ID. Okay, something just like that. So then we can go to our level prep UI and we can just do get rune ID. And Bob's your uncle. Sorted. Okay. If this just works, right, I'm gonna be surprised AF. So technically it could work. So we go through all the runes. We player manager into the get selected character, get component, character inventory. Okay, this is kind of a problem, the get selected character part. So it's not actually gonna work. So add rune to character, we need potentially a rune ID and a character, I would say, or character inventory. So let's give it a game object character. Right, so we're editing this a little bit, and we don't go through here, but we just actually check the character that we've selected here. And we get component, character inventory, and then we add the rune and we remove it from our manager. So if we go to our level prep UI, we already have the character, which is fantastic. Ah, look at this. Look at everything coming together. Character. Okay, wait, no, this is not the same character. We need the character game object. Character dot game object. Okay, but that's perfect, right? So we take the rune, we have the rune, we have the character. So we've selected the rune, then we click with the rune in our hand on the character. It's like, cool, put this on that. Great stuff. Sometimes code just comes together. Look at this thing now. It's gonna throw me an error. I can tell you now. Let's see what it does, actually. I'm super excited about this. A compiler error. Okay. Compiler error is blocking me. Okay. Oh. Where the hell is this? Rune UI. Rune UI, just go away. It's fine. Actually, yeah, this most of this stuff is gonna go away. Because the Rune UI is not a thing anymore. So let's do that. Okay, well, let's save a little bit and let's see what other compiler errors this has caused. Available rune list. Okay, yeah, now this is also pointless now. It's a bunch of nonsense. Okay, and then I'm sure there's going to be a new compiler error too, actually. Yeah, actually, no, this is pointless. And add rune to list. That's also pointless. We can just get rid of all of that. We actually don't even need the start. Save. Right? Have we done it? Have we done it? I think we have. Let's see. Let's let it compile. Yes, I need to clear those errors. So those errors, I think a lot of them came from all the code changes I made. So a lot of things have been declared that are not being used, and you know, etc., etc., etc. Okay, let's see. Next level. Okay, so very interesting. I want to click on this character. For instance, the knight. So we can see the inventory is empty. So if we click on any one of these and I click on the knight, okay, we have a null reference exception error. Rune manager.instance add rune to character. Is this because the character is not active, maybe? That is possible, right? Yeah, so if I do this, I think it's just gonna not do it because these characters are not active. Okay, let's just try that. So let's make him active. And then we do this. Yeah, still not really a fan, right? Okay, so what I think is happening here is potentially my... You know what this is? I believe... my character inventory is not active, technically. It hasn't done the awake. Okay, let's just stop and see what the character inventory... Let's try. Because I remember having this same kind of a weirdness with my character data. Character inventory list, rune list. So this is just public rune list, and we're just taking the manager... We're just shoving something in there. Actually, I don't know. Yeah, it's a bit tough. This is a toughie. That's quite a long error as well. So the events obviously trigger a bunch of stuff, and eventually we get to this line right here. Add rune to character. I don't think it's the rune manager. I think it's one of these. And I don't think it's the... So we can try... So let's try debug. I wish I knew how to do proper debugging, but anyway. So this is going to be the rune ID. So let's do rune ID equals plus So we do this. Okay, so whenever I click on this thing, this will happen. That is if I have a selected one, right? Oh my damn, look at this dumbass. Oh, yeah. Okay, I made a mistake. I make a mistakey, so to speak. I accidentally made my selected rune null, and then I tried to do something with it afterwards. That's never going to work, everybody. Just don't do that, okay? Thank you, bye. Let's try again. That's such a dumb... for crying out loud. Okay. Let's try this again. Wow, it's really compiling now. I wonder why. Okay. Let's try again. This time being less dumb. Next level. Okay. That didn't break. Oh, he's got a speed rune. Let's give him another one. And another one. So now he's got 2 speed runes and a power rune. So this chicken is insane. Okay, wait. Does it actually show? No, it didn't update. Ah, damn. That's unfortunate. Well, no. Something did update. Wait a minute. I can't remember what these runes do. Oh, it changes the max health. So the max health went down. What else do they do? Damage. So the damage wasn't updated. So it seems like this one updates when you click through them, I guess. The other ones are not going to update now. But if we start the... oh, wait. We need to select the chicken. Start level. Okay, I should also change that. I'm a fast chicken. Aha. And I'm a powerful chicken. Look at my... okay, so they are all doing 3 damage, which is way more than usual. Okay, this is perfect, right? So it works. I just made the item system work. What? That's insane. Okay, so if I click on him now, I should see way more stats, hopefully. Unless my stats are not working the way they should. Can anybody see attack speed? So it's on 0. That's weird. That should show something else. Okay, let's try... and his damage. Ah, there we go. Okay, so it updated the minute I actually upgraded something. Okay, that's not good. I think we should fix that. Okay, so yeah, now everything is up to date, right? So it's okay. So when the updates are called, that's kind of an iffy one. But look at that, 200% attack speed, no armor, very small amount of critical chance because I have a massive amount of damage. Okay, this chicken is ridiculous. Let's go, ridiculous chicken. Look how fast he is. Okay, but we got items. Now they're not balanced, but that's okay. So now we just need to... oh, look at this. I could just take out the level. Okay, so the next problem, or the next thing we have to implement is actually making these items drop, potentially, from the totems. And then, yeah, so that's one way we could get them, I would say, dropping from totems. And then, so then when you walk over them, you can pick them up. And I wanted something else, but I can't remember now what I wanted to do. You should see what items are actually equipped. So this character data thing here, the more stats, you should give you, like, it should have a section here that just shows you a list of all the equipped items. Yeah, so that we can just visualize our inventory a little bit. Very good. Very good. I'm going to try again. Ah, I'm so happy. I'm so happy for myself. Okay, so if we now do a haste, let's buff this bird to the moon. Okay, so Stacy is now a ridiculous bugger. Ooh, Stacy's shooting like yeah. Okay, very nice. Very nice. I like this. Let's just continue with Stacy. Now, I do believe Stacy will die very easily. Ooh, one-shotting totems is tight. Oh, that feels so good. Okay, let's see how much damage does she take. Okay, 3.2 per hit, but she can also dodge. Look how fast she is. Holy moly. Stacy is a quick bird. I think if I stand here, I'm gonna get destroyed. Oh, jeez, like that was very close. Yeah, so I do get destroyed if I stand there. Okay, so items are ridiculous. I should definitely think about a way of balancing these because this is level 2. Okay, but obviously you shouldn't get like this is not the way it's meant to go. This is just the way it's going now while I'm testing. This is like I'm launching flippin' missiles here. It's like now I do realize that if I accidentally get hit by a frog, I might just die outright. Okay, how much damage do they do to me? Let's see. Come on, throw me with a bomb. 8? Doesn't make any sense. Did the frogs only do 8 damage? They do 5 damage default, I guess. Huh. That's not a lot of damage. Oh, Stacy died. Oh damn. Now we have a vanilla-ass chicken over here trying to do something. Okay. Very nice. I'm pretty happy about that, guys. I think I'm going to call it there. That, to me, is a very successful day of streaming and game development. I actually got my items to work. Now I just need to figure out how to display them in my character stats. And I need to have a way of picking up items. So I need to physically create an item in the world somewhere. Very good. Anywho, let me go to my... well, it's not my birthday party, but it is a birthday party for a little toddler. And since I have a toddler, I have to go there as well. So, nice and early party though. Anyway, guys, I'll see you guys tomorrow if you want to come hang out. Get some more game dev out of our system, eh? Cheers.